Welcome to this third part of this article by Lycourinos, Damon. Reflections on the ethnographic study of contemporary ritual magic. An article from 2018. So this is the third part. I will now jump to the third part. Page 86. Towards an ethnographic study of magic. Regardless of recent developments in the academic study of contemporary Western esoteric ideas and practices, such as magic, ethnographic investigations, utilizing participant observation of solitary practitioners, of modern Western magic, or as previously mentioned, what Otto refers to as Western learned magic, remain infrequent. Tanya Luhrmann's and Susan Greenwood's ethnographic studies of contemporary magical practitioners are rare exceptions. However, the selection of informants limits the documentation of modern Western magic to a certain ideological and performative orientation. Luhrmann dismisses magical practices other than those which her subjects are engaged with, explicitly fearing sinister overtones in practices referred to as left-hand path, and often characterizing aspects of Alistair Crowley's esoteric philosophy and ritual propositions as violent and destructive. Greenwood's ethnographic data is entirely drawn from magical groups, nearly identical in ideology and performance with those of Luhrmann's study, with an emphasis on Western mystery schools and Wicca. A more recent study of modern magical practitioners employing ethnographic tools is Granholm's monograph Dark Enlightenment, the historical, sociological and discursive context of contemporary esoteric magic. Granholm limits his empirical scope to a single magical order, the Stockholm-based Dragon Rouge. In which Granholm became an initiate. He adopts as his central method a discursive approach. To comprehend ways in which historical and contemporary reflections on esoteric knowledge and identity form within the Dragon Rouge, rather than argue that modern Western esotericism is a response to disenchantment. Granholm contends that the hallmark of modern Western esotericism is eclecticism in the relationship of the individual to religious institutions. Let me take a break here. Now I continue. Another more recent study of individual Western esoteric practitioners using some ethnographic methodology is Gerhard Mayer's research published in English as Magicians of the 21st Century, an attempt at dimensioning the magician's personality. Unlike Luhrmann, Greenwood and Granholm, Mayer broadens his range of case studies by interviewing practitioners from Western mystery schools, Thelemites and magical Gnostics, chaos magicians and Satanists. His conclusions emphasize how certain individuals adopt magical beliefs and practices by focusing on the biographies of practitioners through a series of guided interviews regarding the complexities of conducting ethnographic research with temporary musicians, Meyer introduces a critical observation. One reason for the complexities may be that such definitions, that is occult, often depend on the individual worldviews and the cultural backgrounds of the scholars who formulate them, utilizing the almost omnipresent assumption that magic does not work in a literal sense. Or if a magical practice offers effects, this can be explained by numerous well-known psychological and sociological mechanisms that do not challenge the rational ideology of science. End quotation. Before leaving this page, let me make two annotations. So here I annotated Draco Rouge to find it easily. So Granholm studied Draco Rouge. Okay, so Granholm speaks about eclecticism. Okay, and then magic does not work would be the normal assumption. It's not completely clear what is meant here, but we continue. Page 88. As Meyer observes, obtaining ethnographic data from contemporary practitioners of magic can indeed be a complex and comprehensive affair. He also presents another factor that may be an obstacle for the ethnographer. This he identifies as emic commitments, both ideological and social to secrecy. In this particular field, many individuals and groups value secrecy for a variety of reasons. Some of these are inherent to the system, while others depend on the social taboos that still exist regarding magic and occultism. Acknowledging these factors, an important criterion for any ethnographic study of Western esoteric practitioners would be to locate hard to find informants, referred to as hidden populations in anthropological literature, in the sense that they are neither well defined nor available for enumeration, who would be willing to establish a relationship of trust with the researcher. A relationship of trust with the researcher by feeling comfortable and being familiar with the objectives and methods of research. Particularized as an ethnographic study of modern Western magic, the second step would be to comprehend how and why selected informants self-identify as magicians. As a precondition for such identification in my own ethnographic study, the criterion of selection was that the informants must have had several years of engagement and experience with the study of and practice of magic. The methodological rationale for this was to firmly establish that their identity as magicians consisted of a serious and decisive framework for their personal narratives and ritual performances. Taking into consideration these ethnographic complexities, the selection of informants can be shaped by purpose sampling to achieve maximum variation of expertise and experience in ritual magic. To meet the requirements for ethical clearance, my informants were selected as consenting adults participating in a transparent research project. Transparent research project. Consent in order to ensure the rights of the participants. They were, let's add a comma there, they were each verbally and contractually informed of their entitlement to anonymity, agreement or consent, and ability to withdraw participation at any point in the study. Okay. So this Lycourinos is very serious. Very, very serious scholar. To establish connections and build relationships with potential ethnographic informants, self-reflexivity and recognition of one's status prior to entering the field should be addressed. In my case, I employed my previous status of someone with a personal interest in one particular historico-cultural genre of Western learned magic for securing entry as an ethnographic researcher and forming a relationship of trust with most of my informants for some years prior to this research project. I began engaging in the study of the Greek magic papyri through personal research and various non-academic publications. I also publicly expressed my interest in the worldviews and practices of the Greek magic papyri at both formal and informal gatherings of practitioners and scholars alike, where I established a positive reputation and befriended some of the practitioners prior to this research project. I was acquainted with two of my informants. Our paths had met at various talks and events on Western magic. We maintained contact from time to time via email and socialized at times with the main intent of discussing our shared interests in Western magic. Other informants of this study were introduced to me either by mutual friends or from them seeking contact to inquire about some of my ideas present in my non-academic publications. Conversing in social media groups dedicated to the study of esotericism introduced me to potential and current informants. In particular, my research was referred to the conjurer by a mutual acquaintance. The conjurer then contacted via Facebook and we began conversing about my research and a mutual interest in the Lemegeton clavicula Salomonis and the nature of the spirits contained within. The discussions led to an online friendship, then a few social meetings, finally culminating with the ethnographic study of the ninth key of Cape Levaniel for the location of how to find individuals, especially those such as esoteric practitioners. The internet can prove to be an essential ethnographic tool. Christine Hein explains that using the internet in this way is akin to hanging out in a public setting, catching the prevailing cultural currents, and listening to the way that people talk about a topic when, unlike in an interview, they are not being asked to generate a formal account of their relationship with that topic. So this is about internet, the value of internet as a source. Social media platforms can also act as fruitful resources for gathering ethnographic data, as they provide a platform for hidden populations to discuss and interact with. The ability to remain socially anonymous under pseudonyms and physically removed from any social context of immediate recognition. Daniel Miller finds evidence that Facebook creates a medium for efficient interactions. Indeed, even more intense friendships because of the frequency and ease of interacting. Social media has provided a platform with simultaneous multiple interactions that can be revisited, which allow for a more creative or extravagant public presence, which may previously have been much more restricted. Furthermore, quotation, most people feel awkward in the company of people they barely know, self-conscious about the possible effect of their words and actions. Facebook provides an attractive buffer in this regard. God bless Corona Bear. I don't agree with that, but okay. Hello cat. Hello cat. How is life doing here?
Και του λέω πάνω. Θα κάτσεις λίγο μαζί μας, να φας το τότσι σου, να πιεις τη σοκολάτα σου γιατί θα κρυώσει. Αυτά έτσι τα αγοράσαμε. Να κάτσουμε λίγο η παρέα. Η Βέρα του λέει τώρα σου μιλάει τόση ώρα. Και μετά 10 λεπτά που πάμε, τόσο για 10 λεπτά θα παίξεις. Τη βάζει όλοι.
Facebook provides an attractive buffet in this regard. It helps us to find out a considerable amount about potential friends without requiring any awkward face-to-face interaction. Facebook users can reveal unintentional truths and things they post, share and create are a part of a truth of the identity, even if that truth is an aspirational one. From my perspective, interesting formulation, aspirational truth. What is an aspirational truth? I never heard that truth can be aspirational. Let me see. Aspirational truth. Let me see. Where can I make a note of this? Aspirational truths. From my perspective, both the historical background and societal realm of modern Western magic were not entirely alien. The advantage of the status of a sort of insider can be beneficial for ethnographic access and interpretations, as insiders, studying their own cultures, offer new angles of vision and depths of understanding. Their accounts are empowered and restricted in unique ways. For example, my acquaintance with the theurgist was due to a shared interest in the Greek magic papyri. Upon expressing his attraction to the Apollonian invocation, I immediately emailed him some scholarly studies on the Apollonian invocation, Neoplatonic theurgy. According to his own account, this gesture allowed him to refine the execution of the Apollonian invocation, especially concerning the reutilization of his augoiedes. And the evocation of the spirit of Hades into the fire pit, thus further enriching his own esoteric system of Greco-Egyptian magic and Hellenistic theurgy. This also draws attention to the fact that ethnographic researchers are fluid individuals, representing multiple selves, which are reflected throughout interactions and then interpretations of these interactions. However, I must stress that it would be impossible to classify oneself as a strict insider when observing or participating in a diverse number of magical rituals defined by different historical, cultural, and cosmological backgrounds. In relation to my own ethnography studies, the reason for this argument was that each case study selected was highly individualistic. Was highly individualistic. In terms of objectives, personality, and drawing upon some of these were unknown to me, both in content and performance, prior to my ethnographic engagements, and thus required on my behalf extensive research into the textual sources, informative overviews and performances of these case studies, along with lengthy discussions with the practitioners to confirm the representations of their performances in my research. Depending on the ethnographic objectives, any study of the enactment of Western esoteric practices requires direct observation and participatory reflection, acknowledging the ambiguity, fluidity, and complexity of self-representation of Western esoteric ideas and performances. The data acquired should be designed to portray each practice in relation to relevant detail without distorting any explanations. Hence, the benefits of direct observation and participatory reflection can be summarized as follows. Participant observation opens things up and makes it possible to collect all kinds of data. Reduces the problem reactivity, helps you ask sensible questions in the native language, gives you an intuitive understanding of what's going on in a culture, allows you to speak with confidence about the meaning of data. Accept the nature of the style of ethnographic inquiry, and in my case the status of us as a sort of insider. The ethnographic research of Western esoteric practices should be prepared to engage the methodological reality of themselves. Be an observing participant, in the sense that participant observers can be insiders who observe and record some aspects of life around them, as my style of ethnographic inquiry did not consist of me becoming a member of a group. Did not consist become a member of a group without letting on that you are there to do research. I did not qualify as a complete participant or a complete observer, which involves following people around and recording their behavior with little, if any, interaction. Upon clarifying the objectives of research, the selection of ethnographic informants and possible entry routes to gain direct access to witness why and how certain individuals and groups self-identify as Western esoteric practitioners. The next methodological step is to gather as much data as possible regarding the informants' perceptions and engagements with the esoteric practices. This methodological approach can be pursued through lengthy informal discussions, both in person and via email correspondence, and by witnessing performances other than the ones documented in this ethnographic study. Upon being informed about the proposed performances to be documented ethnographically, it would be necessary for the researcher to then examine textual sources informing the cosmological structure and methods of performance defining each esoteric practice. And here I leave the part 3. Today's so now I covered how many pages? So I covered from 86 to 92, so it was more than 6 pages. So this is, here is the ambiguity. He is not a member, Lycourinos, or a complete observer, so he is close and or neither. So it's interesting that he gave the possibility to the viewers to withdraw participation. And so this is a little bit remarkable. He's very serious. And I thank you for this, for your kind attention to this video. Thank you. I am grateful, very grateful, always grateful.